And we're live.
Hi, Mukhtar.
Hello, Sarah. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. And you? How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. So, what are we going to talk about today?
Mm, we're just having a Ask Me Anything second edition. Ask Me Anything second edition. So we're going to get like questions concerning job search,
All right.
interviews, resumes, just everything. So yeah. So are you ready?
I hope I'm ready. So, fire away. Fire the thing. Let's go.
Okay. So before we actually have some questions here.
Okay.
But before I ask, just for anyone just joining or anyone new to the page, could you introduce yourself again
For
and
sure. For
who
sure.
Mukhtar is?
Yeah. So, hi. My name is Mukhtar. I am a career coach for PMs, and I specialize in
Mm,
helping people land 100 to 300k PM roles. I have been in the project management, program management space for almost 15 years. So I've had various roles. I've been, a project manager, program manager. I've headed teams. Um,
mm.
I've worked in and lived in over 20 countries. So yeah, I guess that's me in a nutshell. Yeah,
Nice. Thanks for sharing, Mukhtar. So let's just get right into it,
for
right?
sure.
Okay. So the first question, um, how can one structure their resume for PM roles at $100K?
That's a good question. So, how can one structure the resume role? So, I'll just mention something off the bat in that there is no such thing as a perfect resume. You can go give your resume
Mm,
to, uh, 10 different resume writers, and you will get 10 different, responses or 10 different
mm,
points of feedback, right? So, what I usually tell people is to strive for a good enough resume, right? A resume that can get you through the door, that can
mm,
get the attention of the hiring manager or the recruiter. All right. So, a couple of things that you need to keep in mind. One of them is that your resume is one resume out of many hundreds. All right. Um,
mm,
and when you keep that in mind, sorry, with that in mind, what you want to do is that you want to surface the most important information up front, right? So you can imagine
mm,
a recruiter has to go through hundreds of resumes. They're going to start from the top. You don't want to bury the lead. You don't want to bury things that are important, down the road, because they have so many more resumes they're going to review. So if you don't catch their attention, if you don't hold their attention, then they will move on, right? So
mm,
I usually say the first half of your resume or the first one third of your resume is very critical real estate, right? So to answer your question, how do you structure your resume? So the top half of your resume should have your summary section, maybe an introduction section,
mm,
and then you highlight maybe the top 5 bullet points that are the most relevant to this role. And the way I like to position this is you look at the job description, you analyze, you look at the job description, you boil the job description down to the top 5 pain points of the hiring manager, right? And for each of those
mm,
pain points, you try to address those pain points with the relevant skill or experience from your background, right? So, for example, if one of them is technical project management, like that's maybe a pain point. Like they need somebody that can manage
mm,
projects. Then
mm,
in your summary section, what you put there a relevant point, like, okay, technical program management led a $2 million technical project deploy um, to deploy a 500 million user platform or something. I'm just making stuff up. If another one is,
mm,
the hiring manager is looking for somebody that can manage large number of stakeholders, then your next bullet point will be
mm,
stakeholder management. led a project team that had to handle, hundreds of stakeholders, right? So basically, it starts with the job description. You analyze it, you boil it down to the top five pain points, and then you match your skills to it, and then you put that in the top half of your resume, right? So that's how I would structure my resume, and then you add the other things like experience and then all the others. All right.
Nice. Thanks, Mukhtar. So another question, which is very interesting, is um, does one need a PMP, PMI, ACP, or other certifications to get hired at this level?
Okay. So my this might be controversial. Some people will say yes, but I say no. Um,
Mm,
and the reason I say no is that certifications is not the same thing as experience, right? So we need to always keep in mind that the hiring decision is a buying decision, right? Like somebody is about to spend
mm,
hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they want to, because they want their problems to go away. So it doesn't matter, like if you have certifications but you can't do the job, then you're not going to get the job, right? So what you need to do is that you need to be able to show that you will be the best investment for that role. All right. So and I've
mm,
seen this. I've helped many people, land roles without a PMP. I've gotten PM roles without PMP, and then my company now paid for my PMP, right? But having said
mm,
that, the PMP is not useless, right? I wouldn't say the PMP is useless. Like, if you want to get the PMP, go ahead and do it. But I wouldn't. When you're prioritizing, if you're like, okay, I'm not getting a job, your first thought should not be, okay, I'm going to go get a PMP. I'm going to go get a PMP so that I can get a job. The first thing that you
mm,
should do to troubleshoot is, what is my job search strategy? Okay, is it right? Like, am I networking in the right way? Am I applying it the right way? Am I using social media in the right way? If you're doing that right, then by all means go and get your PMP, right? Because I speak to 2 to 3 PMs every day, and there are many people that have PMPs that are on the job market months, 8 months, long time, and they haven't gotten jobs yet, right? And then on the reverse, there are people that
mm.
don't have PMPs, but they're out competing people with PMPs and getting jobs, right? So that's my take on it. Now, the PMP is not useless. I'm not gonna say that, but oftentimes what I see is that people don't have a good job search strategy, and then the first thing they're thinking about is, okay, I'm not getting a job because I don't have a PMP, right? You should have a solid job search strategy, and then you can pursue your PMP. That's my take.
Yeah. Well, that's very interesting. And even from your response, I can see like a relation. So it's like positioning yourself to solve the needs of the company you're trying to get into, kind of, in
Exactly,
a way.
exactly. That's
Yeah.
really it's just, yeah, positioning, because at the end of the day, people make decisions because of pain or gain, right? So you know
Mm,
the person that's about to, nobody will fork out money just for no reason. There's a pain or there's a
yeah.
gain to be had, right? So if you can
Again.
position yourself properly, then more than likely you will be that you'll be the hired person. Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. Okay, so this next question is about leadership roles,
Okay.
right? So now we're not talking about just getting a job, we're talking about getting to a leadership position. So
Okay.
person says, how can one position themselves for leadership roles in the project management space?
How can one position themselves for a leadership role in the project management space? Okay. So I am assuming what this person is referring to, so there are different kinds of leadership roles, I guess. Let me take the question.
Mm,
So there is, you can continue to rise up the rank in the project management space as a leader without managing people, without having people directly reporting to you, right? So like in some
mm,
companies, excuse me, in some companies they have, the level is project manager, senior project manager, program manager, senior program manager, staff program manager, principal program manager, right? And in some companies, like the principal program manager might be at the level of a VP, right? But you don't have
Mm,
somebody directly reporting to you, whereas a VP will have maybe a director reporting to them, and the director will have managers reporting to them, right? So some companies, they provide that alternative career path, right? They provide that alternative career path where you can still
mm,
rise up the ranks without having people reporting to you. So that's still a leadership role, but you don't have people reporting to you, right? So so I guess that's one path up. The other path
mm.
is the other path is now, there's like some noise coming from your end, but it's all good. Uh,
Oh,
no, no, it's all good. The other
sorry about
path,
that.
yeah, it's fine. The other path is now was like, well, yeah. So the other path is where you are now managing other project managers or other program managers, right? And that path is okay. Maybe from a program manager, you become manager of a PMO, right? And from that, you can become director of a PMO. So I would say, um, you know, one way to do that is to build your leadership skills, right? And obviously, as a project manager, you are building your leadership skills, right? Because as a project manager, you are leading without authority, and that skill is quite critical to actually leading with authority, because you want to be able to influence people and motivate people, um, and get the best out of them without using the weight of your authority, right? We just like people want to follow you. People are inspired by your leadership. Like that's the best kind of leadership, as opposed to you using the weight of office or the weight of your position, right? So I would say, as a project manager, continue to develop your leadership skills. Um, Take on more projects that are larger in scope, that are larger in breadth and width across the organization, right? Because you will now be dealing with people from different departments. Like that really hones and builds your leadership skills. And then what tends to happen is that in an organization, like the more critical projects that you work on, the more your reputation will be sealed, and the more of an internal brand you will have in the company. That they will now know you as, okay, if we have a very critical project, we're going to call on you. If we have like this project that's going to be life or death for the company, we will call on you, right? So when you are now selected for those type of roles, um, then it will be a no-brainer. Okay, you've done well. Let's see how we can scale your impact across the organization. Okay, so why don't you build a team of people that are going to be like you, so that we can have more solid project managers, right? So that's another way. I mean, there's so many ways to get to the top, but I think these are some ways. One of them is that you can continue to grow the IC route. The other one is that you can lead other project managers, and then maybe the third way is that you can even just go to traditional leadership positions. Like you can be a director of a function, you can become a VP of the function, you can now rise to the C-suite. But that would come when you have, I guess, a bit of domain expertise, right? So as a project manager, when you're managing projects, you need to know the project management side of things. But in order for you to be effective, you also need to know, you also need to have some domain expertise. Like, so for example, if you're running a cloud migration project, so the project management side of things, but you also need to know, things about cloud migration, the cloud technology, and all of that. So the more domain expertise you have, the more you can lead teams, functional teams that are on the domain side, right? So that can enable you sort of branch out into that third branch of leadership. Yeah, hope that made sense.
Yeah, it did. It was a very thorough answer to the question. It was very um the explanation really went in depth. It went from like step to step. So definitely sure that was of value.
Nice.
Okay. So we have
So I
another
guess we
question
can take,
here.
yeah, we can take one more because we are
Like one more.
one more. Okay, cool. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, one more. Last question. Okay, so the last
Make it a good
question.
one.
Um Okay, I'll try my best. Don't be disappointed though. Okay. Um, what are red flags to watch out for in high paying PM job offers?
That's a good question. What are red flags to watch out for in high paying PM jobs? Red flags. Yeah, so okay, so I think there are a couple of ways to take this. Um, I'm assuming this person means when they're in the hiring phase, right? Like you're looking for jobs, maybe you're applying, maybe even interviewing, right? What are some red flags to look out for? So I would say one thing to just keep your eye out for is looking at the job description. Sometimes you can tell if this is a job for one person or a job for three people. Like, sometimes, you can see um salary range of X, but then they're asking for the experience of a seasoned person, right? So, watch out for incongruencies. Also look at the job description, like, okay, is this the job that one person should be doing, or does it seem like this person is doing project management, product management, maybe even as an architect? Like, if all of this is combined, like, watch out for that. And in some companies, maybe depending on where they are, like that's just where they are. So, just it might not be a red flag, but it's just something for you to just pay attention to. So that's another one. So, workload. I mentioned workload. I mentioned, like, are they fairly compensating you for the level that they are expecting? So that's another one. And then when you now get into the interview, or even before you get into the interview, one thing that many companies don't realize is that the candidates are also observing you. Like, you schedule an interview and last minute you cancel, right? Like that's very annoying, because a lot of people, they rearrange their
Yeah,
lives to be in that interview, right? So, and then last thing you tell them, oh,
interview.
you have to move. Like that is very annoying. And some people that
Mm,
have options would, that happened recently. Like, somebody that we're helping, the person is very high caliber. The person actually didn't show up for the interviewer, didn't show up for the interview, and the person said, okay, I'm no longer interested in
wow.
this company, right? So 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 I think that is a red flag, like, because people that
Mm,
interview are the ambassadors of the company, right? Because people are
mm,
you are sort of on the front lines, and people are are having impressions are being made about the company, right? So that's another thing. Like, how are they behaving in the interview? Another thing is, like, how is the interviewer behaving? Some of the really good companies that I've worked with, I could tell the culture from the interview, right? Just how, some, they were just kind, nice people, not trying to intimidate you, or or trying to play gotchas in the interview. Like, just not to say your interviews should be easy. I mean, they should be thorough, but there's a way of going about it, because you're speaking with somebody who's going to be your future colleague, right? So that respect needs to be there, right? And you actually, and this future colleague is going to come and help you solve problems, right? So you want the person to, you know you want the person to feel excited and good about the company. And even if that person is not going to be a fit, that person will tell other people that they had this good experience about your with your company, right? So I think observing, another red flag is just observing how people behave in the interview. There's so many crazy stories. Somebody told me that they prepared for this interview, and then when they got onto the call, this person was actually driving, taking the interview. The interviewer was driving.
oh my god.
His kids were at the back, and it was on video. you
Oh
know,
my goodness.
yeah. So you can imagine, it's like, if I'm that
Yeah.
person, I'm like, I don't know, like, okay, the kids are listening to me, you're driving, are you safe? Like,
Hmm.
there's so many things going through my mind, and then you expect me to comport myself and do the interview.
Hmm.
So yeah, that that's also something to look out for. Um, yeah, so I'm just sort of going through the hiring pipeline. Another
Hmm.
red flag, of course, to look out for is, do your research. What are people saying on platforms like Glassdoor, Blind? What are they saying about the company? What else? Yeah, I think these are some red flags to look out for. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing. That story was absurd. I can only imagine how the person felt, like just being in that position and seeing the kids at the park. Only
Yeah.
imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. For
Well,
sure.
we've come to the end of the Ask Me Anything live. Sadly, because
Yeah.
because the knowledge you gave today and the your answers to the questions basically were very insightful, and I'm very sure lots of people would gain from what you said and would probably implement it in their job search as well. So
Appreciate
yeah,
this.
so Victoria, do you have any last words, parting words?
No, this was nice. Somebody just said hi. Hi, Lumix. How are you? Yeah. No, this was fun. I think we should be doing this more often. Yeah,
Yeah,
regular for sure.
yeah,
All right. Bye,
definitely.
everyone. See you
All
all. If you
right.
need anything, just feel free to reach out to us. You can send us a message. We get a lot of messages. Okay, Lumix is saying wait. All right, Lumix. All right, all right. Oh, okay. I, I'm not able to. I'm not able to answer that question. I think that will be for a. So just for people watching, it says, "What should a depressed nihilist do?" So I would say that is, outside of my scope. That is for
Mm,
a clinical psychologist, to take on, right? But yeah, that's outside of my scope. I'm sorry I couldn't answer that question, Lumix. But yeah, it was nice doing this. We should do this more often. And yeah,
yeah.
speak to you all soon. Take care. Bye.
Okay. Bye.